Oh yes, the Ninjas in Green return in a glorious new sequel, created by the guys who worked on Streets of Rage 4, and Tribute. Our story to the game follows on from the formula of the last two games, which involves the turtles watching the TV and something happening to the Statue of Liberty. Does Krang swoop in and steal the Statue of Liberty? No. Does Shredder abduct it along with Manhattan using an alien artifact? No. This time, one of Shredder's lackeys, Bebop, takes over the news show as the Statue of Liberty gets a makeover? So they've gone from stealing the statue to flat-out vandalizing it. Regardless, Shredder's at it again with not just his army of foot soldiers, but with machines, mutant subordinates, and other beings from the Triceraton Empire and Dimension X at his disposal. Not only do the Turtles leap back into action once again, but Splinter and even April O'Neil lend a helping hand. I mean, I'd likely want in on some Foot Clan thrashing as well if I got kidnapped several games in a row. Immediately you're hyped and pumped up with an awesome introduction, followed by one of the most visually pleasing title screens. Graphics in this game are vibrant and gorgeous. It's a mixture of retro 16-bit, an 80s theme with extra pizzas. Sorry, that's not the word. With extra pizzazz. This pizzazz is what has been described by many as full-color pixel art graphics. And it is glorious. Shredder's Revenge stays true to the original show as well from the late 80s, whilst giving it that extra glitz and glamour. The sweet amalgamation of something familiar, yet new. You'll see plenty of the cast from the original series make their appearances, and what's this? The Turtles are also brought to life again by the original voiced cast themselves.
Turtles, let's get our shells and gear. Party favors for every foot. Another missing robot piece? What a shocker. Way to go!
It's always fun seeing those little intricacies in this game that make you think, oh yeah, just like in Turtles in Time. For example, each level starts with an introduction, level name, and a silhouette of the boss you'll be facing at the end. Not only do you see references to the prequels, but you may discover plenty of the characters' moves which give little nods to other fighting games. Splinter uses Ryu's Hurricane Kick, April has Chun-Li's Aerial Kick, Mikey with E Honda's Flying Headbutt and Liu Kang's Bicycle Kick, Raphael's uppercut is the classical and his special is Zangief's Cyclone. That's just a few of them. Another blast to the past is the soundtrack, some of which seems to use, or at least duplicate, part of the sound font used in the Super Nintendo game Turtles in Time, mixed together with more modern instruments and sound. As well as some unique and amazing pieces from different artists, which blend both nostalgia as well as something new to the table. A good handful of the music has that same catchy and upbeat sort of theme you'll hear in the prequels. The level Big Apple 3 PM plays a similar sort of jam to Turtles in Time's level Big Apple 3 AM.
Oh man, I just fixed the party wagon.
You'll find a few levels which also have tracks with added vocals, most notably on the hoverboard levels. Mutants Over Broadway has some sick rap music, but boy, I sure hope they have something inspired by sewer surfing for this next level, Panic in the Sky. Whoa. Okay, forget everything I just said. We don't need sewer surfing. We've got T. Lopez and his musical genius, baby. T. Lopez is the legend in charge of the soundtrack for this game. He's also composed for Sonic Mania, all with the help of Anton Corazza, Johnny Atma, as well as Ghostface Killer and Raekwon of Wu-Tang Clan for the vocals. Whew. So this game has amazing sound and graphics, and I've not even touched gameplay yet. They've taken the already great gameplay from the prequels, and somehow they've revamped and optimized it. Controls are as responsive and fluid as ever. Fighting enemies feels natural and there's no crazy learning curve either. You'll be given a how to play at the beginning, which you can skip, and it gives you a demonstration on how each move works. Speaking of the moves, the arsenal you are given is just right. You have the perfect variety of attacks and countermeasures to get you out of just about any given situation. There aren't too many moves to the point you're overwhelmed with your toolkit, with no idea what to use, and they're not some complicated string of inputs you have to press to perform them. The moveset isn't lacking either. You don't feel as if you're just using the same string of attacks, making the combat seem stale. The game also keeps track of your combos, which, although it doesn't really serve a lot of purpose, it's a nice little tidbit. And you can get an achievement for reaching a 250 hit combo as well. It's somewhat like Streets of Rage 4's combo mechanic, except losing a combo isn't as excruciating because thankfully you don't get any points revoked after a really satisfying combo just to have it taken away when some bozo just waltzes in and gives you a simple jab and you lose all that progress. Ah! You're given 7 characters, one of which you unlock by completing the story, with statistics provided in the character select screen. Each character varies in range, power and speed, all of which seem to be pretty well balanced. Players don't have to worry about who calls dibs on Donatello anymore, and Raphael is now one of the strongest characters in the power category, to compensate for the lack of range. There's more to each hero than just the statistics you're given at the character select screen, however. Each of them with the same moves, but with differing mechanics, encouraging the player to strategize as characters will perform combos and take out baddies differently. For instance, you can use either a super attack which spins in a small space but can be moved slightly, or a super attack where you're unable to move during its execution, but covers a larger range in a short span of time. There are other little intricacies in the different moves you can use. Some moves can knock your opponents back so they can't counter you, or they stun them in position, giving you the opportunity to continue a combo. These differently implemented playstyles are so well done, especially compared to the older 16-bit games, where you would get a few differences in terms of range, power and speed, but you could still beat up your enemies in the same fashion. Throwing and slamming enemies is given a more user-friendly control scheme as well. In previous games you had to smack an opponent first, get into just the right position, and depending on how close you were to the enemy, you would either A, give them a slam dunk, or B, throw them into the screen. It was still easy enough to perform, but you wouldn't always get the results you were after. But in Shredder's Revenge, you can now grab an opponent simply by walking up to them, and you can slam dunk, throw a foot soldier off screen, or throw them into other enemies by pressing their corresponding directional button with the attack button. You have the choice to play Shredder's Revenge via story mode or arcade mode. In story mode, you can play through the levels individually and change between characters at any time. There's also a level up system. As you level up, you gain the following: extra hit points, an extra life, maximum ninja bar capacity, or a new ability. There's an achievement for maximizing all of the protagonists to level 10, which is a great way to encourage players to try them all out and see which style suits them best. It's also a more laid-back approach to playing the game if you're unable to beat it in one sitting. Arcade mode, however, gives the player a more challenging approach to the game. Limited lives and continues, and the player cannot save or stop mid-game, which captures the arcade experience. An aspect I've noticed in regards to difficulty is that there are no noticeable changes in the amount of enemies you face, or changes to boss patterns. Chill difficulty is ideal for first-timers who just want to play the game without any crazy punishments for making mistakes. The OK difficulty, or medium, is more or less the same, except if you get hit, you lose any energy you've accumulated towards a full ninja bar. Lastly, there's Gnarly, or hard mode. In addition to the ninja bar rule, you take more damage and bosses take less. This is an interesting approach to difficulty. The game's definition of increased difficulty isn't just adding a ton of enemies and ganging up on the player, it adds an extra rule for each little increase in difficulty to incentivize players to think more strategically, to use their wit and cunning whilst punishing them for recklessness. The only time enemies increase is when there are more players. Speaking of which, this game has both online and local multiplayer. So don't just bring a friend, bring 5 of them. You can play with a total of 6 players, wiping out the hordes of foot soldiers and other baddies. If this doesn't scream gaming and pizza night, I don't know what does. I only have one gripe with the way you switch between difficulty levels in story mode. When you choose a new game, you lose all of your progress on story mode, so if you ever want to go back to a more lenient difficulty, you'll have to unlock the levels all over again, and clear all of the challenges again. I'm sorry, did you clear all of those 4 challenges where you beat X level unharmed, especially on hard mode? Kiss those tick marks goodbye! I think it would have been more convenient if there was a save slot for each difficulty. However, you have the choice to either keep or wipe the levels of all your characters, which is convenient as getting everyone to level 10 can be a bit of a grind. To conclude, Shredder's Revenge is a beautifully made labour of love where the folks behind it have done plenty of their homework, keeping the game to both the formula of its predecessors and to the nature of the show from the late 80s, with top-notch gameplay to boot. This is no love letter to the old franchise, this is a full-on proposal, a stupendous reimagining of the classical arcade beat-em-ups without the loss of your many hard-earned quarters, and a delight to play in both single and multiplayer. So grab a friend, or 5, order that pizza, and party on, dudes, because now you're playing with Turtle Power.
Yahoo! Woo! Oh, we're gonna die!